noise!
Welcome back to the next part of this Truth and Rhythm episode. Be sure to subscribe to this channel. If you've already done so, please share it with friends. Also become a member by joining Truth and Rhythm on Patreon, or consider donating at funkenstuff.net. Thank you so much for your interest and support. Enjoy. What other PFunk drummers besides Tyrone did you have time with?
Dennis Chambers. Yeah.
Dennis Chambers, yeah.
Yeah. I spoke with Dennis about a month ago, 3 weeks ago. So.
He's a monster on drums, yeah.
Oh yeah, he was great. We had a funny story. We used to do our solo, like Tyrone and I did, and whatever. And Dennis, he's just. There's a few people. It was in George Benson's band for a while. Dennis, I can name a few guys. When you think they played everything, they'll just like go to another. So one of the funny stories is one night we're doing our solo, and Dennis will just give you a smile, and he can just explode. So I go up to him. He's playing. We traded. I did my thing. Then he was doing his thing, and I strode up to him. I go, "You played that shit last night." He gave me that smile. Just like almost blew me off the rise. So yeah, he's funny. He's another character. He's a great drummer.
Yeah.
Just innate.
Yeah. And I love they're still doing it too.
Bernard Purdy, another one of my drumming partners with Aretha for quite a few years. People like Steve Jordan, Narda, different people have come through subbing in that band. That was an interesting band because we were all of us played in other bands. Some guys Fifth Dimension, this, that, and the other. But Aretha, when she called, that was your first. And the Queen called us. So
did you have any dialogue with her, or you just?
Yeah, she liked me. I liked her. She, I guess I had I'm professional. I'm on time. I look good. I can play my parts. I know. I do that mostly because if anybody wants to call me out on anything, I can go. What? So sort of protecting myself in this dog environment. But she liked me. We would, she didn't fly. I got with her right before everything took off again. Freeway of Love. She was right before that took off. That was like her. And everything went all the way again, and of course introduced her to much wider audience. So right before that, she had a bad experience in the plane, and so she didn't fly ever again. She tried a couple times, she couldn't do it. So she would have the bus. So sometimes, like you say, we were all flying in. Most of the band was from LA. At that point, I think I was me and maybe one other guy from Detroit, mostly LA, New York, a lot of the heavy hitters. And but she would take the bus, and sometimes she'd want me to ride the bus because she'd be reading a book, I'd be reading a book, and we would talk about that. And she was a great cook. She would cook for the bus, But we could never. We'd go. All we would do is East Coast at that point, and up and down south. She couldn't go like to New York. We would stop in Cleveland. She doesn't go that far. Take out all her Louis Vuitton or Yves Saint Laurent luggage at 20, whatever. So she was, And what I loved about her, I was there with my family at one show, And she's like, Larry, she waved me over with the family because she wants a picture with us. Yeah, we got along great. I miss her. I mean, she never heard her get a conk. Ever. And if you know, when you said you played with the Queen or Aretha, everybody knew that. It's quite an honor.
You continued to record on George Clinton's solo records on Capitol and stuff even after that. So obviously he liked what you brought a lot, but also a lot of players stopped working with him for whatever reason. Maybe it was money, maybe it was drugs, maybe it was personalities, who knows what. But it seems like you were able to stay with it for a long time. How come you think it worked out that way?
I would come in for sessions, but I wasn't playing any live shows or involved in the organization per se, and then I was making sure I was taking care of it through record companies or whatever, or have my money when I come in. See, things like that. They have to, by the nature of the business or the people in it. So you just, I would, and some of that stuff, I'm sure, is samples from some of the other stuff, in a lot of stuff in the can. There's some stuff I wish I could hear that just Eddie Hazel and I did before Eddie passed. That was just guitar and like wild percussion. I had all my stuff set up, and you play Hendrix guitar. And I don't know where that stuff is. Because, you know, that was it. Get in there and, you know, 24-track tapes. There's big rooms, you know, stuff would get lost, or there'd be a leak, you know, and it would destroy some of the tapes. I don't know if some of that's lost forever, or who knows. Still might be coming out on some people.
Did you get to know Eddie Hazel at all?
Not that. I mean, just playing together. I played on one of his records, I think, and then we just did some things together. But he was leaving at that point to do like his stuff because I was sort of coming in, you know. So sort of.
Can I force you to pick a favorite? If you had to pick between Eddie Hazel, Mike Hampton, and Blackbird, who do you think is the most impressive?
Well, they all have their own things. I love Blackbird. Michael's got his thing because it's just different things. You know, Blackbird's got coming from that jazz influence too, headhunters and things. And, you know, Michael's been just stewed in the funk there since 17. And then you had Eddie, who was, I want to say more eclectic, might I say, or more, you know, but God, that's a hard one to say, you know, because I didn't, get enough playing with Eddie, but yet Blackbird and Michael I did, but we're just different. They both are great, you know.
Yeah, I grew up with Hampton pretty much in the late 70s when I really got into it. So he was always my guy. But yeah, they are different, no doubt. I mean, Blackbird is very different player from Hampton for sure, and Eddie's the originator. So
yeah, I mean Eddie, that's like I say, not enough because I would have liked to play with him more. But I mean, I do remember we had a heck of a day. We had a lot of fun together, just two of us. We recorded a couple, you know, like 3-hour session. So. Wish I could hear it. Nice.
And then One Way you've done some work with, another great funk act. You worked with Al Hudson and David Roberson, or?
Yep, they would call me, like I say, session work. You know, a lot of times producers or working in the same studio, they're here saying, well, we did that. It's Larry, so I get the call. And so that's where a lot of that came about. And working in the different studios, because I think a lot of that was done at Sound Suite. Some of it at probably United also later around. I think a lot of it at John Lewis's place, where, like you said, Don Was started. Well, it was not was. That was over on, that would be on Puritan. That'd be like the west side of Detroit.
When you were doing other funk, like a One Way, did they ever say, you know, like reference maybe something from the PFunk catalog that maybe you were involved with and say, we want to get something like that?
A lot of times, like, give us that One Nation stuff. you know, and everybody, the Cuica sort of, it was different. There's people like, oh, that changed the face of funk or something, which whatever, neither here nor there. But the Cuica being odd in that instrument, and then, you know, to go, but then the rhythmic thing too, you know, because they say between the four layers, there's Cuica, there's timbales, so there's whistles, so there's colors, textures, and rhythm, and so there's a lot there. On One Nation, for instance, that they'd be like, oh, give us that, or give us this. So One Nation tended to be more of the, because that's really was my claim to fame.
There's even a banjo on One Nation.
Bobby Lewis. Yeah. Bobby Lewis. He's another friend, a great player. He was in a vocal group. I wish I could remember their name back in like the 60s. And then he had his band in Detroit for many, many, many years.
I didn't know the technical name for that drum. I always call it the talking drum, you know. But like Doc Gibbs, I used to really like what he did with it with Grover Washington. And around the same time as Knee Deep, Cameo with I Just Want to Be, they were using it heavily too. And yeah, really cool. Adds a lot.
The Cuica is it's either C-U-I-C-A or Q-U-I-C-A. Cuica, because they usually, for instance, the Africans, the bamba, the bambo, it's bambo, they made with a doom bass drum. But the Cuica, named after that, the talking drum though, for us percussionists, is actually the hourglass drum with strings. You know that one? African drum.
If I've heard it, I'm sure.
Hourglass, and it's got strings, and you squeeze it. So that's really they call talking drum. I think it's supposed to speak Swahili, but they also do refer to the Cuica as a talking drum. Yeah, but the formal name, friction drum, is really the distinguishing characters.
Mm-hmm. The last thing I was asking you before we were so rudely interrupted was, you know, during your time with George Clinton, post Funkadelic on those records, was there any performance or track that's particularly memorable for you? Like, I don't know if you were on Atomic Dog or any of those other tracks on his records that kind of got, you know, more attention.
I think it would be some of like the other stuff, like maybe a Bride's Tune or something like that, or Horny Horns song, and Blow by Blow. I think because those would be where I got played a little bit more, or got to they see the Horny Horns a little jazzy or a little funky, a little more playing going on, I guess, as opposed to the vocals. So, you know, whenever it's all tends to be more music. So, but gosh, I don't, you know, I really.
Did you get to meet Fred Wesley and Maceo?
Fred, yeah, those guys, of course, Kush and Fred and Maceo. Maceo and I were both driving Cougar wagons at that time. They only made them 1 year, so that we laughed about that. We both had a Cougar wagon. So, yeah, those guys, they were playing with Bootsy, so I would, you know, they were coming through the studio too, and at one point, they were the PFunk section before, and I think I was there when they were the section, and then the Baltimore guys came in. I think that was the end of that tour. So that's where I got to know them. I mean, how should I say, at least communicate with them and interact with them for a little bit.
I saw Bootsy in '78, and with the Horny Horns, that band was so tight. It was incredible.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, that's that James Brown. Those are the guys, you know, coming out of that. Had been playing together, Catfish and Bootsy, and you know, that was some funk. I like Catfish a lot too. Bootsy's brother.
What was he like?
He was just a nice man, you know. He was just as Bootsy is flamboyant. He was more laid back, you know. So he was just nice.
Older. He was more like George's generation, probably, right?
Yes. You're definitely right about that. So funny. Reminiscing.
How did you connect with Kid Rock?
I got the call. I actually had done things with Marlon, the guitar player, different projects around town, for all the records we're on and that are, about. There's lots of records we have all played on you don't know about. People like rich guys that are promoting their singer, the usual, their singer girlfriend and throwing money behind it. And we're doing tunes and recording stuff, and, a lot of that going on. For all the ones that have made it, there's a lot that haven't, and still a lot of work put into all that stuff. So Marlon and I did a few of those along the way, and he recommended me to Bob when he wanted some percussion on Rock and Roll Jesus. So 2007.
Okay. Yeah. I just had Shirley Hayden on, and she was talking about, she was on some of the earlier Kid Rock stuff, or maybe you had crossover. I don't know.
No, that would have been earlier, before I was there. And then Bob expanded the band with Rock and Roll Jesus to a couple background singers, and myself and a horn player, David McMurray. So he didn't usually carry a horn player or percussion couple, some guy. I think he had a guy playing congas for a minute or something.
And you go out on the road with Kid Rock's show too?
I'm sorry?
You tour with Kid Rock as well?
Yeah, I have, like I said, for 15 years.
Wow.
So 5 stuff, yeah.
What's one or two memorable experiences from that?
Wow, great ones. I got to play in the Jungle Room. The only other band to play in the Jungle Room was Elvis's band. And then when we do the acoustic unplugged, as we call them, I tend to be the drummer because I play cajon, the box. So then Steph plays tambourine or shaker, but I get to be, when they're playing acoustic guitars, acoustic bass. So that the Jungle Room, and then also the Motown Studios, the Snake Pit, being in there, those are some definitely memorable. And playing the Masters course with Bob. I played the Masters course. I'm a golfer, and he picked up golf along the way. They can't even be on your bucket list, You can only play the course if you know a member. So there's I forgot, 300, less than 400 members, I think. There's no tee times. It's crazy. I played the White House with Aretha. I think the Masters was almost hard to get into. There's Georgia state troopers out there. They got those big concrete things that come up out of it. That's a
bollards, yeah.
Very, very elite.
Is he a good golfer? Are you a good golfer? Or?
Because he really took a liking to it, and then got some instruction. And the funny one is, Bob's like certain people he's like just blessed. He's on a golf tournament. Jack Nicholson is standing next to him, and Bob gets a hole in one on a par 3. Right?
Wow.
Funny stuff.
A hole in one. Wow.
Things with Bob, let's see. Oh, golly. As far as shows, or just, like I say, when he broke up when I first got with the band, I said I feel like Gilligan, because I quit touring. Actually, I had my studio and had a few groups of my world music things going, in group things I was doing, teaching a little, doing clinics. I think I had a column in the Drum magazine at the time. And Bob, I played on Rock and Roll Jesus in January. Then in August, they said, would you go to Vegas, just play one song on this Larry the Cable Guy special? all right, all right, I'll do it. I had never played Vegas, believe it or not, and all these things I had done. So I went and played, and then we came back, and then of course 2 weeks later, so they're like, look, we're just doing a 2-month tour. Will you just come out and do this 2-month tour, And I like the band, and David McMurray's my good buddy, And he's like, you gonna go out? You wanna go out? He's like, all right, let's go do it. So I say, feel like Gilligan, whatever, a 2-month tour. It's 15 years now. And so
Time flies.
I know. And it's just things started rolling and whatever, making money and enjoying it. I was enjoying it. And, it's pretty, and lately it's been, we'd be going out on the weekend. So we would fly out at 3 o'clock. He had his private plane. We had one. And we would fly out of the airport over here, the executive airport, like 3 on a Friday, play a show Friday night, take the jet again to the next show Saturday, at 3 o'clock again or something. Then police escort back to the jet, be driving home like Sunday morning at 1 o'clock. I just do 2 shows, and so in and out. So it's been like I could still do some other things around, So it's been sort of surreal in some of that aspect sometimes. Quick.
What's his approach to the studio like?
Well, Bob pretty much, he's a pretty much knows what he wants, or in these days, pretty much trying to do a lot. He'd been trying to do so much of it himself, or getting people. But he's pretty much he's like anal retentive in the sense he's very meticulous. And our shows are like Broadway shows. I mean, they're pretty much, there's not a lot of improvisation, is what I want to say. So it's more about, I play a lot of things, from congas to timbales to timpani to cajon to shakers, tambourine, so there's a lot to do. So it's more like playing a symphonic or Broadway show, as I said, where I have different parts I'm required to do. And if I switch on a tune and play drums, or it's part of, that doesn't vary. That, it's much like if you were going to see a Broadway show. So it's more of the precision of what I do, try to do that perfect, where every hit is delicious, as I like to say.
So is he more into rehearsing than, say, Parliament Funkadelic was?
Yeah, we didn't rehearse with PFunk per se. I don't remember. Mostly sound checks and jamming. There was never, it was mostly done on the road at sound checks or different things, or I don't really remember rehearsing. So, because we were playing a lot in the studio and then basically learning the songs and taking them to the stage. And, there was a lot more improvisation there, George directing, breaking it down. And, so it was much looser, definitely, with too extreme, very much.
You were listed on credits as recent, I think, as Shake the Gate, which was a 2014 or 2015 Funkadelic CD, the first one in like 30 years or something. And I'm guessing that those were probably things in the can.
Definitely. I don't think I got paid for those. We'll see. I got to check on
that. Hey, maybe this interview is going to bring you some money in the end. You worked with RJ's Latest Arrival. Are you on Shackles? Are you on that track?
I could very well be. I don't know the track offhand, but I worked with RJ's Latest Arrival. I think on a couple of things, actually. But gosh, you're really testing the memory. I would have done some homework.
Yeah, well, no, Shackles is sort of a semi-80s classic dance funk track. So
if I heard it, I would probably go, oh yeah, because that's the worst part. I'm lousy with names of songs.
Well, between the two of us, then we're going to be in bad shape because I can't hold a note, so I can't replicate it for you. But I do remember I remember names and stuff, so that's okay.
Give me credit, I'm probably on it, but I don't know. I can't say offhand.
You mentioned a few times was not was. What was that experience like for you?
It was a lot of fun. Don and I had a lot of fun. I would come in, we'd work late, middle of the night. I'd come in after playing a gig, and we would just play with the tunes. He'd do what he'd want sometimes. Otherwise, he'd give me an idea of what he wanted. And we would, try different things. And it was, he was, I guess, one of my friends said he heard an interview with him and Rick Rubin, because I guess Rick Rubin is enamored with Don. And Don gave me credit as one of the people. He said he was scared, like beyond being scared. And I was one of the people that helped him when he was here. That was one of the guys he could. But I was having fun with him. I liked Don a lot, love him. I hadn't seen him. He'd been so busy. And I was a little like, Don, I haven't talked to him. He told me, oh my God, you're like one of my best friends. But he's just, he's just been doing so much stuff. We just did the Concert of Colors here in Detroit. And it was a PFunk tribute for this last year. And in fact, one of the tunes that we were learning, it was Tyrone and my drum solo was on that. So it's like learning, there's an interesting, learning a tune that you played on, So, you're learning stuff, I am old. They're learning stuff that I played on. Now I have to remember what the heck I was doing.
Is the solo part of a track or just its own solo?
Yeah, it was a real long P-Funk track, one of our live shows. So I think it was probably 15 minutes, We had a good 4 or 5 minute solo in there somewhere. Because Don went through and he wanted to, rather than just pull songs off of the records, Don was pulling from live shows to give it more of a P-Funk live show feel. So he had a lot of players from Detroit that, are worthy of doing it. So it was fun. It was fun, but it was great hearing, that track and going, oh, wow, learning a track I played on, that's fun.
How surprised are you that George is still out there on the road doing it?
Okay, just turned, 80?
Yeah.
80, I see they're celebrating in Newark or somewhere. I got a blur, in Newark, Plainfield, that's Bernie's town. But the barbershop, that's where it all started. The barbershop in New Jersey, George.
Yeah.
They were, you know the history. They were trying to be like the Temptations, Parliament,
Doo-wop, yeah.
Doo-wop guys. So that's interesting to think about, because I didn't really know that history. Back, because I didn't know who the heck they were, like I said when I was just, like say, back in the day, playing on so much stuff and not taking too much note, mostly on to the next thing, I was just having such a ball. So, and getting paid, so that's always good too. It's most of the time.
When was the last time that you had any interaction or communication with anyone related to the funk mob?
I speak with Gabe Gonzalez. He was the one of the last, still is, I guess. I don't know if he is. He goes about one of them. So I talked to Gabe. I said I talked to Dennis. Who I haven't really spoken with too many. If I run across them, as our paths are, but I haven't really. I spoke with. In Bootsy, been a couple years. So I saw George, I think, well, that's been a couple years now too. Time flies. And especially with COVID and stuff, So Bootsy would come out to when I'd come through with Bob, I'd get him some, passes. He'd come and hang out and see the show. he did that a few times in Cincinnati. And then, some of the other guys, when I first got with Bob, I'd see them, they'd get them in, but I'm in and out a lot of times. I don't get to see as many people because we're playing that rock star thing. Run in and run out. I guess Bob likes that. I try to hang out sometimes, but I got to catch my plane. So.
Do you have any preference for funk versus rock versus R&B, or what's your real at-home sweet spot?
Well, I love improvisational music, no matter what it is, and rhythmic music. So definitely funk, world music, of course, jazz, but like I say, things that are definitely coming from the Afro-Cuban side of things. And as I say, I love Brazilian samba, so many of the rhythms from down there, Middle Eastern, what have you. But in pop music, it's usually, yes, funk because of the rhythmic variations, possibilities, world music and jazz, I guess. Those would be the main ones. So much of the pop music or rap, too much 4 on the floor, not enough other stuff going on, Nothing wrong with 4 on the floor, but I like, and then I like say I like greasy stuff, New Orleans stuff, I like music that breathes. Computer's great, but music does not have to be done to it. There's sections that groove, but music can ebb and flow. There's sections that can slow down, I believe. Go check out a symphony and stuff. So pop music's gotten in a little bit into a
very narrow lane. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll hopefully, some other possibilities will come to the forefront that'll let people hear a little bit more than they're hearing. And it's since the MTV era, I guess people are hearing with their eyes most of the time, rather than really listening. And vocals, like I guess I like music where there isn't vocals, I guess, where it's just music, because then the tune can be different to everybody. As soon as you put vocals on it, there it is. It's telling that story. So, I don't mind that. I'm not saying I mind things with vocals, that has its place. But a lot of the music I like to play is melodies and things that the listener can sort of create their own story, and they will all probably have a different one. So I like that. Where music, it's up to you to interpret just the music so that you interpret the story you hear, rather than the story you're told. Music will tell you a story too.
It's kind of what I tell people. I'm into rhythmic, focused music that has improvisational elements to it. And, singing's okay, and if lyrics are good, it's a plus. But the main thing is that bedrock of rhythm and taking it different places, and the players have to obviously know what they're doing.
And be able to work together. So it's hard enough to keep a marriage or relationship together, but to have a band that can work together, and you create this other thing. It's like bata drumming. I don't know if the three, they look like sort of hourglass, one side bigger. You play 3 of them. They come from the Yorubas, I believe, West Africa. But you have the Iya. I always say it wrong. I always say Okonkolo. It's Okokono, whatever. And it's a Tole, I believe, mother, father, and child. But you don't have bata till all 3 play together. And that's much like an ensemble. The sum of the parts, is so much greater, and the dance, the ballet of it, how the instruments feed and play off each other. And let's not forget, vocals are an instrument, the first instrument, when you come out yelling. So it's like, you don't need every instrument on every song. So but that's what, as I say, with pop culture and stuff, that, jazz used to be a pop music, and they didn't have vocals on every tune. And we went through the rock era. We had we had songs that, there was ones that there was vocals, but a lot of improvisation. The album rock.
Yeah. Golden age for sure.
It was great,
Yeah.
Some of those albums still are stand on their own, and people know, so, there just hasn't been a lot of that lately. And then with the computer thing where everything is surgically precise, or it can be a little, I don't know, maybe sterile, or maybe mundane after a moment, or pedestrian.
Robotic.
Yeah, pretty much.
When you're playing funk on the one,
Mm-hmm.
does the percussion necessarily have to also be cued into the one, or can it sort of weave in and out of it because it's doing its own thing? How much of the percussion element needs to also be on the one?
Well, I think that's your reference point, and how that's dressed up or set up. Space is a powerful weapon. So not playing certain places, I think, tends to be as important, sometimes more important than where you're playing, is the things you don't play, which sets up the one. So, these are, but my stuff, as I said, in the percussion thing, unless I'm really laying down something that tends to be it a shaker part or something that really has to be, even then it still can be a little greasy, but as I say, my stuff tends to be, if it's not doing that, it can be more of a color or a texture or something that has more movement in a greasy way than some of the other instruments are allowed maybe to do. But there's a room for that, of course, in the music we're speaking of, funk and jazz and world music, because it's the way the whole animal breathes. That's the important part, where you can hear all those things coming together, and it's like, whoa, this is like a pulsating, living, this tune is a living being. So, that's what when it's like that, it's like you're on a river or something, you're just right, you're steering, you're just going down the river, because it's just, you'll be swept down. Anyway, it's so powerful,
I think that's part of the genius of P-Funk, is just it hit the one harder than anybody else, but also had all those other elements swirling in and around it that were just so different and unique to create that whole ambiance besides hitting the one as hard as it did.
Yep. And it was very organic, I guess would be the word. That would be a great word to add to it. And that's what I liked about playing with P-Funk. We had all that, what we're talking about. It was, yes, it's funk, but in funk he had that, but it had a real, what's the word I'm looking for?
It had a lot of depth, for one thing.
It is an animal, but a real living something to it, a spirit to it. Is what I guess I'm looking for. The spirit of it was just like religious, if I almost how it
spiritual, yeah.
Yep. So the groove, nothing like the groove.
Larry, before we wind this up, I wanted to ask you, what accomplishment or two are you most proud of in your music career?
Well, Brettino's Bounce is definitely, having a solo piece like that. I'm very, very, that's something that's like playing the Masters, right? I don't know, that just happened. The cards fell in the right place. But I think the artist that I think I'm proud of being viable every decade with an artist playing. I've always played with a major group since the 70s, you know, and played with obviously some great ones. So I'm really proud of, I guess, my legacy, I guess, or, you know, being
Longevity, yeah.
Yeah, and being able to do that, you know, also. Thank you, Lord. And still having the enthusiasm for it and still feeling like a child. That's the other thing. When you take up percussion, you need a couple of lifetimes for that, trying to play like Indian. You know, I could take 10 guys from around the world and give them almost the simplest of rhythm to play. They'd all play it just a little different. And as I tell my students, you know, I can teach monkeys, I believe, to play these rhythms. What you have to do is absorb the feels of the different cultures, how these different cultures feel these rhythms and then interpret them. They sent guys from MIT over to tabla drumming, the Indian drums that they sit and play, Rabbi Shankar and all that. Those are some of the most sophisticated drums on the planet for finger drumming, if not the most. They sent guys from MIT over to start out how these tabla players would play, say, a grouping of 6. And they play it a different way. You can't, it isn't, and we do this when instead of a computer playing a grouping of 6, ba-da-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da-da. I'll play a grouping of 6 where I might crowd it at the end or crowd it at the beginning. Ba-da-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da-da, or breathe, or ba-da-da-da-da-da, where it pushes near the end, and a little more crowded at the end, a little more crowded at the beginning. That's what gives the humanity to it and the natural feel, where it isn't so precise. Precision's nice, but it isn't, you know, I think it's, there's a lot of other ways, as I said, to play that same rhythm. Out of those 10 guys, someone's going to play it dead on, someone's going to grease it near the end, or how it feels, where their dynamics, how they're enunciating certain parts of the rhythm, if that's the proper word. But you know just what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah. Is there any other PFunk tidbit or memory that we haven't covered here that before we sign off you're going to share?
Good question, because it was, I mean, just, right, you know, on the mothership, the bus, the old Eagle, doing things, oh gosh, let's see, having to pull me out of some parties sometimes, because we'd be down south, and I forget, I'd be like the only Italian there, we'll say. And then other times, Joe, the bus driver, and me having to go in certain places to get rooms, because he was more where we could get rooms without being told there were no rooms. Things like that, which are not, you know, as much fun. And then I think just people wanting to play and the great talent. I mean, it just, the shows, funny things when the bus, you know, like the bus breaking down and walking through South Chicago. Imagine all of us, you know, I mean, where our stage clothes were the same as our street clothes, you know, I mean, or, you know, we look, so walking through our bus breaks down, we're walking through the south side of Chicago. And the people are like, well, yeah, we're like, it's PFunk. They're like, yeah, we're still looking at this. What are you guys doing walking down the street? You know, stuff like that. But just having a good time. First major tour. So really just a lot to take in and a lot to, and at the same time, it wasn't that, like I said, it was only, 3 years, 79, 80, 81. And I was really in the thick of it. But that's when a lot was going. So a lot of studio work, you know, the Brides, Parlet, just so much going on. It's almost hard to, in a way, to pick out anything, because it was like being with the circus somewhat.
Yeah, like 5 or 6 different record labels too.
Yeah, I think 7 at the time, because there was Parliament, Funkadelic, Bernie, Bootsy, Parlet, Brides, Horny Horns. All at the same time. Casablanca, Arista was at Warner. So it's always something to do. I think I remember mostly the studio stuff. I think mostly, I mean, just going in and being able to just set up and, you know, really enjoy myself. I love that. No one bothering me at all. Going out there and just playing, you know, the live, of course, but that was just really having a good time, going out and having fun with your friends, I guess. So we had a ball.
Were you surprised at how fast the empire crumbled?
Not really, because of the drugs that were involved and the people that were involved with the drugs. I knew that, you know, it was like the wolves got into the hen house, you know, and so, and then you had, because of that, and that's why I left, we weren't getting paid. And I actually, you know, like being the novice I am, come on, you guys, I'm going to go talk to them or whatever. You know, but yeah, and I was just like, okay, I can't do this. You know, I had family, a couple of young boys and a wife, and they first, and I had other things I could do. You know, it wasn't like I was, you know, I felt sorry for some of the people because that's all they did. I mean, they're part of PFunk. But I mean, I would go back to doing sessions and playing with groups around town, putting my band together. Because, and I said I've always taught. I love to teach because I learned so much. And I was doing clinics at universities. I said a column in a drum magazine. So I've always been highly involved, a student of my art. But I realized too that you have to be multifaceted. You can't just be a studio musician. And luckily some people are not good live players and can play well in the studio, or good studio players but look awful live or don't know what to do or don't like the stage. So lucky I had both of those things that didn't bother me, and I mean, I look so good anyway. And then
You had the giant hair too.
yes, I did. And then being able to teach, and then being able to say do other, being a session player. So live. So when I left, it wasn't like, you know, God, what am I going to do? It was like, no, I got to leave because I can. There are other things. I got to go make some money. You know?
Yeah, forget this noise. I got to keep food on the table.
Yeah, and I could do it. It was easy. It wasn't a hard. It was easy. You know, I just gone from there. Oh, that was a good one. And speaking of, you know, I came back from. It was playing like a Madison Square or something one night, and it could have even been that night. I don't really remember. It probably was where the equipment didn't show. But I came home, and I did that like a Saturday. I came home on a Sunday, and the student said, "Hey, can you cover for my wife's pregnant?" And it's like, you know, some little country, crappy little bar, like on Telegraph or something. And it was sort of delicious of me. I'm up there playing. It was delicious to think, man, I imagine if I went up to the bar right now and told that guy that I played like sold out Madison Square Garden on Saturday night, and here I am with 4 people in the bar on a Monday. You know, it's like, it gives you perspective, but it's delicious at the same time. You can't get too full of it. And like I tell my students also, you know, praise and criticism are the same thing. That probably what led me was just an offering. It's when they're not talking about you, you better worry.
Right.
So, you know, and as I say, I think if you free yourself, if you're really committed to what you do and are doing the best you can, and I love it, so of course I'm gonna do the best I can, that it's, you can't please everybody. Lincoln said it, please some of the people, none of the people, you know. So I think it frees an artist up a lot when they can just say, here it is. And I think that's what PFunk was about too. Here it is, but with that commitment, we really loved the groove. That was our mistress,
You were especially fortunate when I think about it that Bertino's Bounce was on Electric Spanking, because that originally was going to be a double album, is what I understand. So when they cut it down to one, it still made the cut. So that's pretty fortunate.
I still don't know how. I mean, I'm just like, it was a magic. I mean, I said I laid everything down. I was very inspired by it, and I knew from what I wanted to do. I mean, who knows? Again, who knows? I can't. I try not to be judge and jury. I said that my stuff. Just like I said, that's, as I say, with something I'm very proud of, because you can't, and especially a solo percussion piece.
Yeah, far and few between on those.
There's another, but yeah, it was nice to have that, and then have that. It's a validation of sorts, I guess, in the sense of that I am, push me to go a little farther in the direction that that I've headed. Those are all good things that help. So,
were you on the antitour that they did in 1978? I think they called it the antitour because they did the small venues with the military outfits on, and
those were the Funkadelic tours.
Yeah, I was at the one at the Starwood in Hollywood, California, which was like still to this day probably the most amazing show I've ever seen.
With the what again?
The most amazing show still to this day, out of the hundreds of concerts I've seen. That show at the Starwood in Hollywood, about 300 people. It's like 3-4 hours. The brides opened, and then it went until like 3 or 4 in the morning. It was like a hot sweat box.
Yeah,
it was incredible.
Oh my! We would just go sometimes, and that I said, I remember, 3-4 hours, just going. But the anti-tours, we had a lot of fun with that because it was really about the music. There was no props. It was the fatigues, the anti-tours, the opposite of the Parliament. And that became, like I said, the Funkadelic, where that became music, and the Parliament became our background singers, even lead singers and background singers. But a lot of solo, I mean, we would extend a lot of solos. That's when we'd take our long drum solo too, because it was like, we're just here to play. We're going to play until we're tired.
I remember stumbling out onto Santa Monica Boulevard, at like 3 or 4 in the morning from that show, just like stumbling out, dripping sweat, and just being in this like mesmerized ultra funk state, just a different awareness, a different level. It was something else.
Yeah, no, it's like going to a sweat lodge for how should I say, in the spiritual aspect of it, the groove, just going for, and that's why they said that would have the extended, where the tunes, they would just be, you could ride that, like the shamans used to ride their rhythms to the gods. So
yeah, I was hooked before then, but that for sure cemented me being hooked for life.
Yeah, I was there if it was 78 in the anti-tour. Yep, that was when One Nation hit. So then could go they could do we could do our own. How should I say, another? That was the Funkadelic part.
And
that
then
was cool.
The Glory Hella Stupid tour at the Santa Monica Civic, which was like early 79. I was at that show too. So I don't know if you were out on that. I'm assuming you probably were.
Yep, all those till 81. I was on from like I say that. I think it's 78, late 78, after the end of the Flashlight tour, and then until 81, till everything fell apart. So I was on all those.
Yeah.
Wow. I was part of the band till I left.
Well, I appreciate you spending all this time sharing these memories with us, and talking to you. It's been a lot of fun, and thank you so much for all the great music over the years, Larry.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, I hope to see you again.
Yes, absolutely. Is there anything you want to plug before we sign off?
Well, like I say, we're going to my Drum Devils, and the next step of that It's a percussion ensemble, as well as a teaching, sharing. Some of these guys started with me in junior high school, that play, and I've had this vision for a long time to have things to go back into the schools. We've done that already through Focus Hope and different things, and even gone in ourselves. But that's the type of thing that I want to get going in the one thing I did in 99 was a Chill Up for Charity, which went for 3 days, where the groove didn't stop for 72 hours. Over 30 bands, and when as soon as the band would stop, 3 percussionists would play. This went for 3 days over the Jazz Festival in Detroit. We did it for Children's Hospital. So I would love to get, once this all gets going again, because of the nonprofit, to have that 24 hours, November's International Drum Month. So Halloween night at midnight, when everybody, especially as Grease stuff will offer, they'll start throwing more money at them. 24 hours starting Halloween night at midnight through November 1st for the children's hospitals. I'd love it to be eventually in Detroit, like LA, Nashville, New York, whoever get my drummer guys. I believe I could probably do it in Nashville, LA, pretty good at this point, but get my crew organized, get everything together, and then drummers organizing it, bringing their groups in. That's how we did it here. So I got all the drummers together and they brought all the groups in. So one of my friends gave me his bar for 3 days. And that's what went on. So that's what I would love to do that. I've been on a lot of tours. The worst tour I ever took was touring Children's Hospital, because you can't just do it for Children's Hospital. You have to do it for one of the units. So they showed me all the units and gave me a list. This is a great story too. Gave me all the list. I'm like leaving. I'm like ready to cry, you know, right? I'm like, okay, is everybody on the list? I was so exasperated from just what I'd seen. And she said, well, no, the transportation unit's on there. She's like, you know, no one's born here. I'm like, what? So no one's born in Children's Hospital. They're all sick kids. But you have to do it from the unit. I said, well, tell me, what's this transportation unit? She said, well, don't born here. And I went, what about them? She said, well, they pick up the kids. Oh, their mascot's a koala bear. That's what they do. So I said, all right, well, I got to go home and think about this, talk this. So I'm like, God, what am I going to do here? What am I going to do? A brain unit, lung unit, pick something. Go home, turn on the TV. It's a special on koalas. Thank you, Lord. Did the transportation unit. It was perfect. They came and parked their ambulance in front of the bar a couple times for a few hours, educated people about Children's Hospital, sold a few mugs, so it was good, because I was like, that was the worst tour I ever took. We know about the best ones. So that's what I would love to be my legacy, where once a year, where our arms come together and do something.
Outstanding cause, and sharing the best thing of all, music too. So if people want to get more information on that, how can they do that?
Well, I do have a website, drumdevils.com. We're just getting all that set up again to really do this next push, because I was between other things, but just be looking out for Drum Devils, and you'll be hearing when it does go, because I'll have my guys on it, and on some of the tours, I have some ideas for them to do some things that we can auction and do things, and then but so far this is all between moving studios and getting everything together. But that's what's in the works, what we're hoping to do.
All right, excellent. Well, good luck with it. Good luck with all the projects you have going on, and so glad you're still at it, still making a difference out there. So thank you, Larry. Thank you very much for having me. I hope to see you again. God bless everybody, and keep that funk and keep the groove. And as I always like to say when I sign off, in time. Perfect. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Truth in Rhythm. A big thank you goes out to our guest as well as to you, the viewer and listener. Also, much gratitude to Pleasure for supplying the show's funky opening and closing music. As a reminder, you can always access the complete list of linked shows by episode at funkenstuff.net. I urge you to support this program and receive the extra benefits along with that by subscribing to the Funkin' Stuff channel on YouTube and sharing it with funk, R&B, and jazz lovers, joining Truth and Rhythm's membership program at Patreon, submitting a donation at funkenstuff.net, buying Everything is on the One, the First Guide to Funk book at Amazon, shopping at the Funky Things store for cool merchandise at funkenstuff.net, and linking through funkenstuff.net for all of your Amazon purchases. In addition, if you're an artist or anyone seeking proven, results-oriented professional marketing, PR, writing, or editing consultation or production, check out the media services section at funkenstuff.net. Also, I encourage you to drop me a line at scottg@funkenstuff.net. I love the feedback, suggestions, guest requests, appearance and sponsorship inquiries, and just talking about my favorite subject, groove-based music. For now, and as always, this is Scott Dr. GX Goldfine saying, keep on vibing to the rhythm of the one.